Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Phoenix, Rogue and Laura? Part 1. Huge shout out to Fan of Fanfics for this story. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. At the Valley of the End, two powers clashed for dominance. Naruto was fighting with all his and part of the QB's might to overpower Sasuke and take him back to the village. Sasuke, well, he was fighting with all his and part of the Curse Seal's might to kill his best friend to gain ultimate power to kill his brother. After they jumped at each other with their respective attacks, a strange fear of energy encased the two dueling fighters. Kakashi, who had just arrived, was in awe at the sight. Dear Kami, how is it possible for two genin to fight at this kind of level? Back inside the sphere, both fighters were reaching their limits. But, being as stubborn as they both are, they both pushed every ounce of chakra they had into their attacks. However, after they did this, they both felt like they were on fire. Sasuke was blasted out of the bowl of pure yet at the same time corrupted energy. Naruto wasn't so lucky. Kakashi saw Sasuke fly out of the sphere and into blissful unconsciousness. Looking back at the sphere, he realized that it was smaller than before and getting smaller. Watching in horror and amazement, Kakashi saw Naruto just disappear before his very eyes. Well, Picking up Sasuke, not very delicately as he had just lost any respect he held for the Uchiha, he started back to the village, all the while thinking two things. One was that the council would be very happy. And the other, damn, Tsunade is going to kill me. On the plus side, she'll probably kill this traitor too. Naruto's Mindscape. Alright Fox, just why am I here? The eyes and jaws of the QB no Kitsune showed from behind the enormous cage as though mocking him. Just be glad you are here, you damn insolent whelp. If it weren't for me, we both would be dead. Instead you'll just wake up later with a headache. Wow, thanks I guess. Don't thank me yet, whelp, you won't be waking up in your world. In order for me to help you, I pumped so much energy into you that we tore a hole in the fabric of space-time. Oh, and take a look at yourself. Naruto took a look into the water on the floor to see that his whisker marks had become more defined, his eyes were now red with slitted pupils, and he was now sporting fox ears and 9 tails. He had also grown taller and seemed more muscular. Needless to say, Naruto freaked. You stupid fox, what did you do? Like I said, I pumped so much of my chakra into you that it sped up the seal absorption process. In 1 year's time you will be the new QB, and I will become nothing more than, let's say, a sadistic voice in your head. Now, you can change your appearance with a mere thought, just like other kitsune, so just think how you want to look and your appearance will change. Naruto concentrated and his form changed back to its original, keeping the hide and muscle thing though. You now have nearly all my power, but none of my knowledge, so I will be teaching you in here at night. And before you start doing your little happy dance about learning new jutsu, you will first need to strengthen your mind. Then we will work on the fundamentals, finally moving on to completely master the jutsu you already know. First of all, how are we supposed to train in here? Secondly, why do I need to learn everything over again and keep working on jutsu I already know? Think about it. If you only learn a jutsu so that you know it and someone else fully masters the technique, whose jutsu do you think will be stronger? As for training in here, you won't need to eat, you won't need to sleep, and time in here is different. 1 minute out in the real world is a week in here. You won't wake up or arrive in the other world for a while, so let's get started. Time skip. 1 hour normal time. 14 months Mindscape time. QB wasn't kidding when he told Naruto that time moved differently in the Mindscape. Naruto had learned that only a mere hour had passed back in the real world, but he had been training here for well over a year. After they finished QB's original training plan, the fox had Naruto start learning new jutsu. While he was by no means a master, Naruto had advanced greatly in the arts of gain jutsu and sealing. He could even perform the House of Nirvana gain jutsu to a point where he could probably put anyone under the rank of Jonin to sleep with it. You have progressed, I'll give you that, but the time has come to put your training to the test, for we are about to arrive. Remember, if you wish to speak to me, you need only think what you wish to say and I will hear it. Thanks Fox, I really appreciate this. Yeah, it's time to go. Good luck and try not to die. With that, Naruto disappeared into this new reality. X-Mansion. Hey Professor, are you okay? Professor Charles Xavier was suddenly snapped out of his thoughts by Scott Summers, also known to those in the mansion as Cyclops. Yes Scott, I'm fine, but I must get on Cerebro at once. He said the last part more to himself than the others. You sure Chuck? You all of a sudden got this far off look and turned all pale. Voiced to Wolverine, known to everyone simply as Logan. Mr. Logan's right Professor, you totally spaced out on us. Rang the voice of Catherine Kitty Pryde, codenamed Shadowcat. Thank you for your concern, but I'm fine. However, for some reason I felt something just now. And if it's a mutant, it is a very powerful one. Did you feel anything, Jean? But Jean couldn't answer as she was in too much pain. When the group turned around, they were all met with the sight of Jean Grey clutching her head in pain. Suddenly, she let out a scream and collapsed on the floor. Time skip. 10 minutes later. Infirmary. Jean woke up to see the other X-Men surrounding her with worried expressions. "Where am I?" she asked. "The infirmary, you collapsed and we brought you here," said Scott. "Does anyone know what happened to me?" asked Jean. "I think I might." Everyone turned to see Professor X walking in with Logan at his side. Cerebro picked up a signature. It was so powerful that it spread over all of New York with just pure power. "I've never seen anything like this before." "So what?" said Evan Daniels, nephew to Storm and known to the others as Spike. "We've beaten other baddies before, we can take this guy." "Normally this would be true," said Professor X. However, this signature did not come from a mutant. There were shocked faces at this. "But you just said this guy's power blanketed the whole state," said Cyclops. "Yes," replied Xavier, "but he appears to be something more. Now, everyone off to bed, you all have school tomorrow." The X-Men all left with groans and started mumbling under their breath, much to the amusement of Logan. Before leaving, Professor X decided to look into Jean's mind to find out exactly what happened. What he saw was a boy, though he couldn't make out what he looked like. All that was visible was what appeared to be the silhouette of a boy no older than the other students. But suddenly the image started changing. The silhouette morphed and changed into that of a giant fox with 9 tails. As the beast closed in on him, not even Xavier could take the pure malice radiating off it and pulled out of Jean's mind. Wheeling away, Xavier could only think one thing. "I don't like this. I don't like this at all." Somewhere in Bayville. "Man, I feel like someone shoved a fist through my chest." "Oh wait, someone did," said Naruto. Opening his eyes, he realized that he was in a small alleyway and was luckily unseen to passerby. Getting up and stretching, Naruto decided to get a feel for how his body was doing after the Chidori wounds. Gathering a bit of chakra into his legs, he jumped to the top of a building and started jumping from rooftop to rooftop. "This place seems alright, but it may help to learn the language," said Naruto to himself. "I can help with that," came the disembodied voice of QB. "Just find someone and lock eyes. I will do the rest." "Hey Fox, how do you do that?" questioned Naruto after having just learned English within the span of half a second. "It is one of your abilities, I just accessed it for you as you can't at the moment. It works in almost the same way as the Tsukiyomi of the Mangekyou Sharingan. This also means that if your opponent locks eyes with you they're pretty much screwed." I know what the Sharingan is, but what's the Tsukiyomi?" At this question, the fox sweat dropped. "Well, as you know, the Sharingan is the bloodline ability of the Uchiha clan. However, it has a more complete and more powerful form known as the Mangekyou Sharingan. This Sharingan eye has the same abilities of the normal one, but a few special abilities as well. One of these is the Tsukiyomi. The jutsu traps the target in an illusionary world that is completely controlled by the user. While it only takes a few seconds to complete in the real world, the user can make it seem as if days have passed for the target. Depending on the user's whim, they can either torture their target for what seems like days on end or make them relive a traumatic event over and over. When the jutsu ends, the resulting psychological trauma will render the target unable to fight for an extensive period of time and possibly suffer a complete mental breakdown. "How do you know so much about it?" "Because I am the one who gave that accursed clan the Sharingan eye. Now back to the problems at hand, what are you going to do now?" But Naruto didn't hear the last bit as his attention was turned to a nearby museum. Sneaking inside, Naruto started looking for anything of value. "Might as well take something I can sell. As a newcomer I'm in serious need of some cash," thought Naruto. "The way I see it, all this should be yours anyway. Think about it, you could be treated as a god. I already told you, no world domination. Damn brat, love you too." 1 week later. Naruto had sold his stolen items and got more cash than he knew what to do with. After using Gain Jutsu on a driving instructor to learn how to drive, Naruto got his license and was currently driving a Mercedes to his apartment. Naruto is 16 in this fic, get over it. Tomorrow he would also start class at Bayville High. School wouldn't be top on his list of priorities, but he needed something to use as a cover for his thievery. Naruto laughed as he remembered his little note he wrote to the cops after his little shopping spree in the museum. "Dear reader. Everything in here looks so expensive and valuable, I thought someone may try to steal them, so I'm borrowing them without permission. That way they won't be stolen from you. Sincerely yours, the Fox." The Fox. That was the name Naruto went by at night. He had become quite the little thief and had gone out every night for the last week he was here. The cops were completely baffled and he even managed to get mentioned on the news. Given that he was the soon-to-be new QB, he thought it was an appropriate name. It may not be the greatest of hobbies, but even a few hours without missions caused Naruto to go crazy. This way, he could work on his skills, get the payoff and get that mission buzz all in one. The next day. Bayville High. At the lunch table, several things were going on at once. Scott was trying to tell Kurt to stop playing with his image inducer. Honestly, I love it when he does that. Kurt was ignoring Scott and talking with Evan, and Rogue and Kitty were arguing over something pointless. Hey. Everyone turned to see Jean and another boy. Both Kitty and Rogue were, for lack of a better word, too stunned to speak. The boy in front of them had spiky hair that was colored the brightest shade of blonde they had ever seen. He had bright blue eyes and 6 whisker-like marks, 3 on each cheek. He was wearing a leather jacket over a bright red t-shirt with blue jeans. All in all, to any girl looking at him, he was gorgeous. "Guys, this is Naruto, he's a new student here and I promised to show him around," said Jean. Scott, Kurt and Evan all said hello. Rogue and Kitty on the other hand was a different story. Rogue just went back to eating and acting like her normal self. Kitty was doing everything in her power to stop drooling. "Nice to meet you all," said Naruto. "So where are you from, dude?" asked Evan. Naruto, who had planned on this question coming up, already had an alibi. "A small village in Japan, up in the mountains. I decided I needed a change of scenery so I came here and well, here I am," he said. Everyone else bought it, but Jean was suspicious. She had felt something off about Naruto since meeting him, but when she tried to enter his mind, she found that she couldn't. It was like his mind was being blocked off. "Professor, can you hear me?" thought Jean. "Yes, Jean, what is it?" Came the thoughts of Professor X. "Professor, something's off about this new guy at school. I tried to enter his mind, but it's like something's blocking me out." "Interesting. I want you to watch him for now. For all we know, he could be a mutant telepath," thought back Xavier. After checking on this new student using Cerebro and turning up nothing to point to him being a mutant, Xavier went back to his most recently taken up hobby, looking for this mysterious fox thief that was now all over the news. Xavier knew that this person was connected to the power surge last week, but it seemed like until nightfall, he didn't exist. Bayville High. Principal Darkholm's office. "Have you located him yet, Mystique?" asked Magneto. "No," replied Mystique, shifting from the form of Principal Raven Darkholm into that of her mutant form, "but I believe I know where he will be tonight." "Good. If we can rally him to my side, he would be a very powerful ally. Do not fail me, Mystique," said the fading form of Magneto, leaving the threat hanging. "But Naruto. Sorry I'm late, but a black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way around," said our favorite blonde shinobi, earning a snicker from the rest of the class. "Well, I'll admit, that is a new one," said the teacher. "Now take a seat." Looking around, Naruto found an open seat next to one of the people he met at lunch, Evan, I think his name was. Placing a low-level gain jutsu over himself to make it appear that he was paying attention, Naruto slept for most of the class. Near the end, just as Naruto woke up, the teacher told everyone to pick a partner for a project. They would be videotaping their everyday lives. Seeing Evan asleep, Naruto woke him up and informed him about the project. Deciding they may as well be partners, Evan led Naruto to the skate park after school. "Yo, Evan, what's up?" The two turned to see 2 people walking over. One of them, a guy with a mohawk, asked, "Who's this?" "Guys, this is Naruto. We're stuck doing some lame project and he's my partner." Taking this as his K, Naruto decided to speak. "We have to videotape our lives, and if you guys put on a good show, you might get on the tape." "Sweet," said Mohawk Dude. So Evan and his friends started boarding, but in Naruto's case, it seemed more boring than boarding. This is what people do for entertainment here. No blood, no tears, no battle. If only things were still like the Roman civilization your clones read about in the library. This city could defiantly use a coliseum and some warriors willing to fight to the death. I know. I could do all this without chakra and they make it look so difficult. But this Evan kid interests me. You taught me how to feel another being's chakra and his is way different from most others here. I felt similar feelings with his friend's chakra as well as the principal. I can sense it as well. Find out all you can about these people and maybe get some sleep. If you're not out on a heist, you're training in here. Your body may be asleep, but if your mind is active all night, you don't get the rest you need. I thought that demons can sleep but don't really have to. This is true, however, you are not a true demon yet." And with that the fox went back to sleep. "Hey Evan, why don't you let me try?" said Naruto. "You ever bored before?" "No," said Naruto, "but I'm willing to learn." With that, Naruto borrowed Evan's skateboard and was soon pulling off stunts that were making everyone there drop their jaws to the ground. Naruto was making all the others there look like amateurs and he was the one that never boarded a day in his life. "Dude, why didn't you tell us he was this good?" asked Mohawk Dude to Evan. "I didn't know. He just told me he's never tried before." replied Evan. Then this is one hell of a case of beginner's luck, said Mohawk. So, where to now? Naruto asked from behind Evan, making him jump. Turning around, Evan gave Naruto a light punch on the shoulder. Don't do that, man, you just popped out of nowhere. And I thought you said you never tried this before. Well, we have something similar back home, lied Naruto flawlessly. Where do you live? We can finish up there, said Naruto. I live over at the Xavier Institute, but we don't get many visitors. I'm not sure if the teachers there will be okay with you coming in. Evan, bring him to the mansion. Rang the voice of Professor X through Evan's mind. I'll explain later, but this new friend of yours interests me, and I would like to meet him. Well, I guess I could take you, said Evan to Naruto, getting a big fox grin in response. Arriving at the mansion, the two teens were met by Evan's Aunt Aurora and a man in a wheelchair that introduced himself as Professor Charles Xavier. Upon meeting them, the first thing Naruto noticed was that they, along with this whole place, practically reeked of the strange chakra. The second thing he noticed was that Xavier was trying to get in his head literally. Though trying was the key word. Good thing the fox put up several mental barriers, or this conversation would be so much different than it's going to be, thought Naruto. After having a very interesting conversation with the Xavier, Naruto decided he had to leave if he was going to make any cash tonight. Coming up with an excuse to leave and getting Evan to promise to finish the video. Xavier, still trying to get into Naruto's mind, escorted Naruto to the door. Before leaving though, Naruto said something to him that only heightened his curiosity and worry. You know, it's impolite to root through someone's head without permission. And without another word, Naruto left. Stopping just outside the gate, Naruto summoned up a shadow clone and gave it orders to find out all it could about Xavier's little school. And with that, he headed home to get in character for his heist. Back in the mansion, Logan, who just got orders from Xavier to tail some kid, headed out on his mission. About halfway to his apartment, Naruto realized he was being followed. Time to give this guy the slip. Naruto managed to lose him after only a few minutes. Once home, Naruto got in his outfit and headed over to the bank to make a little withdrawal. Time skip. 30 minutes later. Damn it. How could I let some snot-nosed kid get away? Either he's really good or I'm losing my touch. And neither of those options makes me feel better, muttered an irritated Wolverine to himself. Going past the bank, Logan picked up a scent. It seemed similar to the guy the professor had him following, but it was different. Reeked strongly of foxes. Looking up, Logan saw a figure on the roof of the bank. Well, I think I just found this fox character everybody's so interested in, he once again muttered to nobody in particular. Up on the roof, Naruto was just getting ready to head home with his loot when he sensed someone behind him. Turning around, he saw a man dressed in an orange and black outfit with a pointed mask leaning against the roof access door. Evening, bub, said the guy. Fox was on edge. This was another one of those people with weird chakra. And you are? He asked. Wolverine, came his reply. I don't suppose you're gonna let me go with my cash, are you? Asked Naruto, though it was more of a statement than a question. Well, you're smarter than you look, small fry, said Wolverine. Stepping out from the shadows, Wolverine got a good look at the guy. He had what looked like fox ears on his head and 9 long fox tails protruding from his tailbone. As for what Naruto is wearing, picture Sub-Zero's clothes from MK1, but instead of the black and blue, Naruto has black and red. His mask has a demonic-looking grin on it and his fox ears show, but not his hair. Well, I'd love to fight you for it, but it appears we have company, said Naruto, who ducked just in time to not be hit by a kick from a blue woman with pure red hair. She was wearing what appeared to be a white battle dress. Standing by her was a kid who looked like a frog, a giant kid who looked like he would collapse the roof if he jumped, some kid in black, with what looked like a glass bowl over his head, and a kid with white hair, dressed in a white outfit. Mystique growled out Wolverine while showing his adamantium claws, what are you and your little circus freaks doing here? I don't think that's any of your business, replied the blue shapeshifter. However, if you must know, we are attempting to get a new recruit. At this everyone looked at Naruto, who had his head looking down and let out a sigh. Alright, look lady, whatever the offer is to join your little club, I don't care. I'm a solo act. And as for you, points to Wolverine, I'm not giving the money back. I stole it fair and square. While Naruto was distracted with Wolverine, however, the big one, Blob, gave Naruto a punch that sent him through the roof access door. As he came back out, he casually cracked the knuckles in both hands and his neck. Okay, he said, now I'm mad. Suddenly, one of Naruto's tails shot out and hit Blob right in the face with enough force to knock him out. Taking this as a signal, Toad jumped at Naruto. But Naruto saw this and caught him in midair. Whirling around, Naruto used Toad's momentum to fling him at Quicksilver, who dodged, causing Toad to hit into Avalanche instead. But Mystique noticed that already Naruto was starting to tire. She went for a flying roundhouse to his head, but Naruto managed to duck and knock her off balance. Regaining said balance, the two went at it hand to hand. After a few minutes of fighting, it seemed Mystique had the upper hand, but Naruto once again used his tails and threw Mystique over into Toad and Avalanche, who were being helped up by the newly reawakened Blob and Quicksilver, knocking the whole group over. Deciding enough was enough, Mystique and the Brotherhood left, leaving only Naruto and Wolverine. Wolverine, being himself, charged head-on at Naruto, who was charging a Rasengan. Just as he was about to slash at him, Naruto completed his attack and slammed it into Wolverine's stomach. The attack being one-handed, and Naruto was still working to master the one-handed Rasengan, only managed to blow Wolverine back a few feet, though it left a pretty good wound in his stomach. But before Naruto's eyes, Wolverine got back up and his stomach was healing to the point of regenerating. "Face it, kid, you may as well return the money and come with me. You're not gonna win," said Wolverine. "Good thing I have a backup plan," said Naruto, who suddenly burst into smoke. Naruto's apartment. "Good thing I loaded lots of chakra into that clone I replaced myself with or I'd be in some serious trouble," thought Naruto after receiving the memories from the dispelled clone. "Maybe I'll take the fox's advice and get a good night's sleep." Suddenly, his alarm clock rang. The next day. "So, everyone at the institute is one of those mutants, huh?" said Naruto after getting the memories from his clone. "Does it matter? You could beat them anyway." "I'm not so sure. My clone had to get out before I could find out what everyone can do. I found some, but not everyone. And another thing, why was I getting tired so quickly last night in that fight? I guess that's partially my fault. You're not used to fighting with the tails yet. They're messing with your balance and until you get used to them, they're going to take a lot more energy than they should. However, the rest is all you. You've gone 8 straight days and nights without sleep. This is what happens when you don't listen to me. So I guess I need more physical training then. Bingo. But I can tell that there's one more thing troubling you. Yeah, that girl Rogue. From what I can tell, she seems to absorb people's energy. She then has any special abilities that person has. So if she touches you, since you have my chakra as yours now, it could prove fatal. Not sure I follow. You've had my chakra in you since the day of your birth. Your chakra coils have adapted to it. If she were to take my power, even if she can adapt to the powers of others, my chakra would destroy her from the inside out." Time skip. Later that night. Naruto had decided to stay in. He needed some sleep. But, he couldn't help himself and went out anyway. Not exactly looking for a challenge, he decided to rob some stores at the mall. However, when he got there, it seems that he was expected. It was Mystique and the Brotherhood. "You clowns again, didn't you learn your lesson the last time?" asked Naruto. "Nope," said Toad, "guess that makes you a lousy teacher." Suddenly, Naruto was hit from behind by a fast punch from Quicksilver, who got away just as fast. "See, we did learn a little something from last time," said Avalanche, "as long as we keep hammering you, eventually, you're gonna get tired." At this, the ground under Naruto opened up and he fell into the crack. Unfortunately, Avalanche didn't get to celebrate as Naruto poofed into smoke. "Well, don't you all feel special," said Naruto from behind Avalanche. However, Naruto didn't get to celebrate either as he took a flying kick to the head from Mystique. As Quicksilver started to rush in to pound him, he found that he was running, but not going anywhere. Looking down, he realized he was floating in midair. "Damn," he shouted, "we got company." As Toad turned to look, he was blasted with a beam of red energy. Avalanche just narrowly avoided what looked like an enormous almost wooden spike directed at him. Just when things started to look up for Naruto, fate, or me, just had to keep messing with him. "Hey bub," came a voice Naruto recognized, ready for round 2. Naruto found himself fighting Wolverine again. "No," was his reply, "but then again, you're probably gonna attack me anyway, so what's the point of protesting?" "Smart kid," said Wolverine, who jumped at Naruto, claws shining in the moonlight. Unfortunately, the odds were not in Naruto's favor. Naruto nearly got hit with a bolt of lightning as Storm decided to step in as well to help Wolverine. But then again, Naruto has always been extremely lucky. "Well, when the odds are against you change 'em," said Naruto, forming a familiar cross-shaped hand seal. If the two senior X-Men were wondering what he was doing, they didn't have to wonder long, as suddenly, they were surrounded by 10 other Narutos, and the original ran off. Deciding to test it out, Wolverine attacked one of the clones, for it to burst into smoke. After the discovery, it didn't take long to take them out, as they didn't really fight back. As the fighting continued, something odd started happening. Everyone started to see what looked like golden feathers raining down from the sky. It hit the teens first, as one by one, they all fell into blissful unconsciousness. Wolverine managed to call the mansion before he and Storm also fell asleep. Xavier Institute. What hit me?" asked Logan, waking up from his forced sleep. "By the looks of it, some form of psychic attack from our friend the Fox." Looking over, Logan saw Xavier wheeling toward him. "The kid's okay, Chuck?" he asked. All fine, though if you had taken more than just Scott, Jean, and Evan, I might still be making back and forth trips to get you all, as I couldn't seem to wake you up. Whatever attack he hit you with was powerful, and in my condition, I don't think me carrying you all back would have been an option. Though some good may have come of this, said Xavier. How so? Asked Logan. Because, we may have found out exactly what our friend is capable of. The next day. You mind if I sit here? Asked Naruto, walking up to the lunch table occupied by the X-Men. Sure, we got plenty of room, said Scott. Like, yeah, you can sit over here, said Kitty, trying to get the hot new guy to sit next to her. Unfortunately for her, Naruto just happened to take the seat next to Evan. As he was eating, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that both Kitty and the other girl, Rogue, were both sneaking glances at him. Hahaha, looks like someone's got himself stuck with a fate worse than death. What do you mean? You've got fangirls. Oh joy, just what I need. Oh, relax. At least they're much quieter than the ones the Uchiha had. Unfortunately, the conversation had to come to an end as he felt the tug on his mind that meant that Jean was attempting to read his thoughts again. If I have to deal with this one more time, it's not gonna be my thoughts that they need to worry about, thought Naruto. So, Naruto, you said you were from a village in the mountains of Japan. What was it like there? Asked Scott. Oh, not too bad. I got some training in some martial arts, though I admit I never was near as good as anyone else. Most of the teachers didn't like me. I know that it's a really overused excuse, but I'm completely serious, said Naruto. Why didn't they like you? Asked Rogue, speaking to Naruto for the first time in the 3 days he had been in school. Like, yeah, were you some sort of troublemaker? Asked Kitty. Well, said Naruto, the dislike toward me led me to pull some pranks, but I guess it was something I did when I was very young, because I don't remember. The group seemed to buy it, which was a relief to Naruto, as this was a subject that he did not want to get into. So you turned into a prankster? Asked Kurt. Oh yeah, I don't mean to brag, but my pranks were things of legend around the village, replied Naruto. How often were you caught? This time it was Evan who asked. Only when I let myself, said Naruto. At this proclamation, Evan and Kurt got these visions of pranks they could pull with Naruto's help. Everyone else, besides Naruto, suddenly felt a chill go down their spines. They didn't even want to think about what that meant. So anyway, why did you move here? You said something about a change of scenery. Asked Jean, determined to find info on this kid, one way or another. Yeah, I just had to get out of that place, so I just left and came here, replied Naruto. You say you, as in, by yourself. What about your family? Asked Rogue. I don't have any family, Naruto said with a depressed look. My parents died when I was a baby, and just recently, the man I look at as a grandfather passed away. I'm so sorry, I didn't know, said Rogue. Taking on a mildly irritated look, Naruto said very clearly, I don't want people's pity. All I ask is that this subject doesn't come up again. Are you sure? Asked Jean, because there's always someone to talk to know. Shouted Naruto, slamming his fist into the table. Suddenly, with a quick I've gotta go, Naruto left the group. Looking to where his fist had impacted, the group noticed that the table was covered with spiderweb cracks. Heading on the roof, Naruto calmed down enough to enter his mindscape. Alright Fox, what's up with that outburst, cause it sure as hell wasn't me. Actually it was. The merger between us is letting you feel my emotions now. You can control them, but it will take time to master. Oh great, wow, you must be PO'd all the time. I'm Skip. Hey man, what was up with lunch? You totally went ballistic on us. And you totally cracked the table when you hit it, said Evan as he and Naruto walked down the hall after class. Yeah, about that, sorry I flipped out, but that's a really touchy subject, replied Naruto, while rubbing his head sheepishly. No problem man, just keep any punches you throw from now on away from me. So, you want to hang at the skate park after school? Asked Evan. Nope, things to do, people to see. Maybe some other time, said Naruto. So Evan, Naruto asked. What's up with that girl Rogue? She's only talked to me once since I've been here. I don't think I'm the best person to ask. She's always kind of broody, but at least she talks with us. Man, when she and Kitty get on a subject, mainly whatever they're arguing about at the time, she won't shut up. But for that matter, neither will Kitty. Unfortunately for Evan, both girls had just walked up behind them and had heard his last bit of kind words about them. One beating by 2 angry teenage girls later. And that, my friend, is why we do not talk about people when there is the chance they may possibly hear you, said Naruto to Evan, who was down on the floor in a heap. He helped him up and they and the girls, who were still PO'd by the way, started walking away from school. Naruto left to get some well-needed sleep before going back to the mall to do what he planned to do the night before. Clean the place out. Damn it boy, we need to get you a mate or 3. Why are you even back here? Hey, this is the only place I've tried to rob that I didn't manage to, so shut it. Well, at least you managed to get a few hours rest. With that said, QB decided to get himself some sleep. Time skip. Naruto was ecstatic. He managed to pull off the job without interruption and still managed to get some sleep after. All in all, he was having a great morning. However, that all changed once he got to school. Apparently it was not a good idea to let Evan and Kurt know about his pranks because they must have given themselves the challenge of pranking him. Throughout the day, Naruto was dodging everything they threw at him and silently thanking Sweet Kami that he had so much experience in pranks. Eventually, he reached his limit and decided to have a little fun. So, during lunch, Naruto snuck off to set up his little revenge gag. Later. Man, what's up with Naruto? We've been trying all day to get him and I can't even think of any more ideas, ranted Evan to Kurt as they walked through the hall to their lockers. Yeah. It's like he's 2 steps ahead every time. I didn't even think someone could bend backwards at that angle. He must be really good at limbo, replied Kurt. Speaking of Naruto, I haven't seen him since lunch. I wonder where he went, said Evan as he opened his locker. Turning around, Kurt went to go to his locker but suddenly heard a strange noise. Turning to look at Evan, our favorite teleporter saw his friend covered in blue paint from a rigged spray can in his locker. Taking a few steps back, Evan hit a tripwire, which pulled a cable, tipping over a bucket, releasing its contents of ice water onto Evan's head. Kurt couldn't stop laughing as he looked into Evan's locker. Beside the spray can lay a note. It said, "Little tip guys, don't mess with the best. I can outprank you any day. Signed Naruto. P.S. You're next, Kurt. You won't know when, you won't know what, but it's coming." For obvious reasons, Kurt didn't like the sound of that. And so, the reign of Naruto the prankster had begun. Does everyone know how to find me? Asked Naruto as he once again dodged a hail of projectiles, courtesy of Spike. I mean, come on, how is it that people seem to know where I am all the time? He asked as he dodged a red energy blast from Cyclops and a few slashes from Wolverine. It's a good thing I'm finally used to the tails and found a decent place to train, he said. And it was true. Using some of his ill-gotten gains, Naruto had purchased a rather large warehouse near the edge of Bayville that was perfect for his type of training. And that wasn't all. Having sent another clone into the X-Mansion, Naruto now had several hundred clones, along with a mutant who called himself Forge, creating his own training area underneath a warehouse, using the blueprints he had borrowed from their computers for the danger room as they called it. Unfortunately, now was not the time to be thinking of the past or future, as he suddenly had to dodge several lightning bolts from Storm. However, as soon as he dodged, he was hoisted into the air by Jean's powers. She began bringing him in closer, but she made one mistake. She looked at him directly in the eyes. Using this to his advantage, Naruto broke right into her mind, and as he did so, time seemed to stop. Inside Jean's mind. Wow, who would have thought that even in her mind she was so boring, said Naruto, as he looked around her mindscape, which appeared to be a hallway filled with doors. Maybe not, voice QB, who appeared next to Naruto in his human form. For reference to what his human form looks like, see Ninja in the Galaxy Far Far Away Chapter 5. As he said this, he pointed to a door that was chained up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's see what's behind door number 3, said QB as he punched the door, effectively blowing it off. Its two walked in to find another locked door. And behind that was another locked door. Finally, they entered a room to see what appeared to be Jean chained to the wall. However, when she looked at them they could tell it wasn't Jean just from the look in her eyes. That and she seemed to be giving off a totally different vibe than Jean. And who might you be, my dear? Suddenly, QB was thrown back against the wall. In a flash, QB had her choking to death with an extended arm created of his demonic chakra. Now he asked, are you going to be a good girl? The Jean look-alike nodded and was released. Who are you? She asked. To which Naruto replied, friends or foes, that entirely depends on how you act, and a good way to start would be to answer our questions. Now, I believe that the fox asked you a question. What fox? The girl asked, I only see you two, and honestly, you're the only one worth looking at, Blondie. Naruto didn't know whether to blush or to strangle the girl. I guess it is more polite to introduce yourself first. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, however, it may be best for you to simply refer to me by my alias Fox. He is the QB no Kitsune, translated to English, that means nine-tailed fox. He's a majorly poed demon lord who managed to get sealed inside my gut. The girl looked at him oddly for a second, but then just sighed. That is just weird, but then again, I am a conscious manifestation of raw psychic power, so who am I to talk? I'm pretty much Miss Goody Goody's powers come to life. You can call me Phoenix. Introductions made. Now, how did you get in here? She asked. Special ability, replied Naruto. I have a question for you, Phoenix said. QB, ask away, she said. What do I have to lose? Nothing to lose, my dear, but everything to gain. Tell me, what would you do to gain freedom? True freedom, as in a body all your own. At this, Phoenix looked at him with wonder and said, anything. Why? Because I can do it, but there are conditions. Name them. First off, you and your good counterpart Jean will be at equal power, neither of you will be stronger than the other power-wise. Secondly, you will have to wear a seal which, while not making you lose your free will make you unable to disobey a direct order from one of us. And third, for the third condition, he got up close and whispered something in Phoenix's ear that put a grin on her face and caused her to look at Naruto, which in turn caused him to shiver slightly. He didn't know whether to be frightened or excited, but he was thinking it would be somewhere in the middle. One more question before we do this thing, said Phoenix. Can I kill Charles Xavier? He is the one that locked me up in Jean's mind all those years ago. No, you can't kill him, said QB, while applying the seal to the back of her neck, but if you can wait for one of us to give you the okay, you can throw him up against a few brick walls. Just make sure there are no critical injuries and it'll be fine. Finishing with the seal, QB looked at Naruto and said, when we return to your body, let me take control. It's a very delicate jutsu that only a true demon can perform. With that said, he broke the chains binding Phoenix to the wall and the two disappeared from Jean's mind. Real world. Note. When QB controls Naruto, he will speak like Naruto, but his thoughts will still be bolded. Damn, it feels good to have a real body, no matter how short-lived this is going to be. He then broke free of Jean's mental grasp and wrapped a tail around in one direction and another tail in the opposite direction. He then flashed through hand seals at a rate no jonin could hope to match and began pulling in opposite directions with his tails, as if he was trying to rip her in two. Suddenly, Jean began to glow with a gray aura and started screaming in pain. As the rest of the X-Men watched, they saw Jean separating into two people, as if she were simply being copied. However, one Jean now had a white aura, while the other had a black one, and unlike the white aura Jean who was screaming in pain, this one with the black aura was just smirking. As the jutsu ended, regular Jean fell to the ground unconscious, while the other one floated in the air, began to laugh and screamed at the top of her lungs, "Hello world. Here comes Phoenix. It's your turn again, brat, have fun," thought QB before returning control back to Naruto. However, just as control was being returned to him, he was hit with an extremely powerful and extremely painful energy blast from Cyclops, sending him flying into a wall and falling to the ground after hitting said wall. Groaning, Naruto felt a tug on his shirt and was hoisted into the air by an angry Wolverine. "Alright bub, just what the hell did you do to her?" he said as the claws in his free hand grew until they poked Naruto's throat, "and you had better hope we like your answer, which I highly doubt." Unfortunately for Wolverine, he was suddenly sent flying through the brick wall by means of psychic power, courtesy of Phoenix. Phoenix floated down and stood next to Naruto, leaning slightly against him, causing the other X-Men to really look at her compared to the normal Jean. Unlike the Jean they knew, this one seemed to have an air of confidence, almost to the point of beepiness, and had a smirk on her face that could rival the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. Her hair also seemed to fly about when she used her power, giving it a look akin to flames. All in all, if you ask the X-Men, this girl could practically be Jean's evil twin. Two sets of groaning could be heard, breaking the silence of the two sides staring at each other. One was rough, meaning it could only come from Wolverine, who managed to get himself up from underneath the heaping pile of bricks he was under. The second came from the real Jean, who was beginning to stand up as well, rubbing her head. Unfortunately, Naruto's body was almost exhausted from earlier fighting with the X-Men plus the separation, and he could tell that although she looked confident, Phoenix needed to rest after just being separated as well. Walking over to the side of the building they were near, Naruto picked up his bag of loot that he had dropped earlier before the fight and also started pulling something from a pouch attached to his belt. "Well," he said, "it's been a blast, but we really must be going. Don't worry though, I never leave company without leaving a parting gift." At that, he whipped a kunai into the middle of the group that lodged itself into the concrete. "Wow, you're a lousy shot," said Nightcrawler. "Like, yeah, you totally missed us," called Shadowcat. "Did I?" said Naruto, "maybe you should take a closer look at that kunai." As he said this, he threw a smoke grenade onto the ground and he and Phoenix disappeared without a trace. "What do you think he means to look closer at the kunai?" asked Scott. "Let me see this thing," said Logan as he ripped it from the ground. "Ha," he said, "what the hell is this thing supposed to be?" Wrapped around the kunai was a piece of paper with some intricate designs and what looked like some kanji. Suddenly, it started sparking and smoking like a fuse. "Oh crap," was all Logan managed to get out as he was blown back by the resulting explosion. Ironically, gee, maybe that has something to do with me, he was blown back through the same wall and buried under a fresh pile of bricks. Underneath them the group could hear a growl and what sounded like "I'm gonna murder that guy." Naruto's apartment. The two arrived in Naruto's apartment via Naruto's new jutsu, Shunshin, body flicker technique. "Well," he said, "that certainly was an interesting evening." However, if he was planning on saying anything else, he was interrupted by Phoenix pulling his mask down and nearly crushed her lips against his. Before Naruto could even grasp what was happening, Phoenix pulled back and replaced his mask. Fox, what exactly was that third condition of Phoenix's freedom? About that, I was planning to tell you. I never took a mate when I was in power. That is why you are my heir, because I had no children. However, when I made the decision to not take a mate, the other demon lords decided that the next QB, you, would have to take at least 2 in order to ensure that you will have an heir in case something would happen to you. You can have more than 2, but you can't have less, so get used to it. Anyway, the third condition, if you couldn't already guess, is that Phoenix becomes one of your mates. Oddly enough, she seemed thrilled with the idea, so you got lucky in finding her. You couldn't have told me this before. Surprise. Idiot furball. Returning to the moment, Naruto realized he must not have been paying attention to what Phoenix was doing because he suddenly found himself telekinetically being pulled into his bedroom where she was waiting for him. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Naruto was screwed literally. I don't do lemons for now, but yes, Naruto won't be getting much sleep again. As for why I don't do lemons, I'm 16, with a majorly strict mom. Also, our only computer with internet access is upstairs in my sister's room. X-Mansion. Now then, what exactly happened? Asked Xavier after the rest of the X-Men. It appeared that they took quite the beating, the exceptions being Logan, who just healed himself, and Kitty, who let the explosion just phase through her. The rest of the X-Men had some cuts, some bruises, and a few minor burns, as Logan had taken the brunt of the explosion. We got our butts handed to us, said Evan, getting nods from all the other teens. And then he did something weird to Jean, said Scott, causing Xavier to look at him funny. And what exactly did he do? He asked. He tied his tails around her in opposite directions and started pulling like he was trying to rip her in two. But instead, she split into 2 Jeans. The thing is, the one he took with him didn't act like Jean at all. And she called herself the Phoenix. At this, Xavier froze. This is bad, very, very bad, he said. What's wrong, Chuck, you know what happened? Asked Logan. I'm afraid I do. Years ago, when Jean first came to the institute, her powers were out of control. After a while, I realized that she wasn't controlling her powers. Her powers were controlling her. Her powers somehow formed a consciousness all their own, in the form of a split personality that called itself the Phoenix. Everything Jean is, Phoenix is not. She is arrogant, quick to anger, and has no problems using her abilities to harm others. So, I placed several mental barriers inside Jean's mind to keep the Phoenix at bay, but it seems that the fox has given her a body of her own, said Xavier, in almost a frightened tone. So, basically, Chuck, you're telling us that we're pretty much dealing with an evil Jean? Asked Logan. Yes, replied Xavier, and that's not all. I found something that may interest you all. Come with me. The group followed Xavier into the library, where he picked up a rather old-looking book on Japanese folklore and legend. Handing the book to Scott, Xavier asked, just how many tails does our friend the fox have? We never took the time to count. He has a lot of them, replied Scott, but if I had to guess, I think he has 9 or 10. I marked a page in that book. Take a look at what I found, said the professor. Scott opened the book to the marked page and saw a picture of a giant fox with 9 tails towering above the trees, the tails flailing behind it in the moonlight. Scott started reading. The next morning. Naruto's apartment. Naruto woke with a start to find the sleeping form of Phoenix lying next to him with her face buried in his chest. Hey Fox, yeah, you remember last night where I was totally pissed at you for pretty much making a marriage arrangement between me and Phoenix, and I really did not want to have sex with her. Yep, I stand corrected, you are brilliant. You made my night and morning and hell, probably the rest of my day if she wakes up ready for round 7. Great, I've created a sex-crazed monster. With that one last thought to himself, QB went back to sleep. It was at that point Phoenix did wake up and heard all of Naruto's thoughts. It took everything she had not to blush. Wait, why do I feel like this? Sure, if it weren't for him I'd still be stuck in that damn prison cell of a mind. But I don't really like him, this is just a business deal, isn't it? Unfortunately, Naruto thought of something that needed to be thought of and preferably taken care of right away. Phoenix, not that your glorious naked body isn't a sight to behold, but we need to get you some new clothes because all you had after the separation was Jean's little X-Men uniform and I'm pretty sure you don't want to be wearing that all the time. I'm pretty sure that after last night, it's pretty unusable anyway, said Phoenix. Sure enough, the uniform was on the floor, torn to shreds. When did we do that? Asked Naruto. However, the response of sometime during the beginning of round 1, apparently the tails aren't your only animalistic quality, only succeeded in giving Naruto a nosebleed. Okay, he said, first order of business, we get you clothes and preferably not destroy them. It being Saturday means that we can go out later, when we do you can just throw these on. At that, he threw her a pair of jeans and a red t-shirt. And once we finish that, we can take them off together and continue with last night's activity, said Phoenix, whispering into Naruto's ear. Oh yeah, Naruto was loving his new living arrangement. It had been slightly over a week since Phoenix and Jean had become separate beings, and Xavier had all the X-Men searching almost every night, causing all the X-Men to be tired after getting only a few hours of sleep, though more than they had been, as it was a school night. But all of them were beginning to wonder something. It was Scott who decided to ask the question over breakfast. Professor, I can get Logan's fixation with Fox, but why do you have us running around almost every night looking for him? Yes, he's stealing all this stuff, but he hasn't really hurt anyone yet, well, besides Logan and the Brotherhood. And Jean, of course. That may be Scott, but there is something else about him that puts me on edge. Normally, I would be skeptical of most things having to do with the supernatural, but Cerebro confirmed that he was not a mutant, even with his immense amount of power. Now, I don't care to believe that he is really the most powerful demon to ever exist, but what? Asked Jean. Well, why don't I just show you, said Xavier, once again going for the book where they found the information on the QB. Pulling it out, he opened the book and had Scott read it aloud. While very little is actually known about this force of nature, it is said to appear where malice and hatred fester and raise the place the ground to begin anew, destroying all life to create new life. In fact, though very little known, ruins from the greatest civilizations have left statues, carvings, and other artworks depicting a fox with 9 tails, or even a human with fox ears and 9 fox tails in some cases, that date back only a few years or possibly even a few weeks prior to the time that they supposedly ended. What the group didn't know was that Naruto had placed some advanced seals in the mansion that worked better than any listening device, though he had to do a lot of work to get his scent out. As he laid in his bead, he listened in and found himself growing more and more confused. Can you explain this, QB? As a matter of fact, I can. When you were first sent here, your body interacted with the time stream of this world, much like a flat stone skipping on a lake. You would skim, enter for a moment, and then leave, though not without your entering and leaving doing a great deal of damage. It just happens to be that it was my power that did that. The book was right in the fact that we appeared in the most corrupt eras, but everything else was just accident and coincidence. Why would your power be the cause? Because the book is right when it says what I do. That is the job of the tailed beasts, keeping the balance of the world in check. However, we never actually did anything but appear in the time periods, the civilizations ended soon after, but that was just coincidence. So you're saying that we have effectively, either in a large or small way, changed the entire course of human history. Just great, something else to put on that long list of screw-ups. Inside the mind of Phoenix, however, was a different story. Why can't I do it? He never ordered me not to kill him, and I could probably do it before the command left his mouth. So why can't I bring myself to kill him? It's not like I care for him, do I? She thought as she pretended to sleep next to him. As she was lost in thought, she subconsciously rolled over, putting her face into his chest, effectively bringing a mad blush to her face. Realizing this, she started mentally slapping herself. No, no, no. This is just a business deal. All I'm here for is to be his sex toy, and that's all he sees me as. That particular train of thought was interrupted as she found herself alone in bed. Looking around, she saw Naruto getting ready for school. She knew the drill. She was not to leave the apartment until later, though she didn't know what he was planning for after school, as he had those damn mental barriers shielding his mind. Humming up to her, Naruto gave her a little see you later and pulled her into a kiss, but unlike the first kiss she slammed his face with, this one seemed different, like he was actually trying to tell her she was wrong, and had Phoenix not known he couldn't read her thoughts like that, she would have thought that was the case. But before she knew it, the kiss had ended and he was out the door, leaving Phoenix sitting, naked on the bed, with her thoughts. And they had just taken a mighty turn for the better, as anyone watching would be able to tell from her girlish squeal and her falling back on the bed. Schooling herself, she got dressed, made breakfast, and checked the TV. Time skip. Bayville High. It was halfway through the school day, and Naruto was making the final preparations for his plans. Walking around the corner, Naruto stopped when he heard Evan talking to the other X-Men. It couldn't hurt to ask, man. He said that he's Japanese, maybe he knows something about Cupid that isn't in the book. I don't know, said Jean, he kind of puts me on edge. I still can't get through his mental barriers. And the professor couldn't either. I think Evan has a point, said Scott. If he knows anything about the legends, there may be something in them we could use. Like, come on guys, this time the voice of Kitty rang out, he'll probably think we're weird for asking or something. Well, we won't know until we try, said Kurt, pointing toward Naruto. Speak of the devil. Walking up to the group, Naruto was getting more and more nervous. If Jean can't read my mind and she can't read Fox's mind, how long is it really gonna take to find out we're one and the same? Hey Naruto, you wouldn't happen to know anything about the QBE, would ya? asked Rogue. Putting on a face that made it appear as though he was thinking hard, he said. You mean that old legend of a giant fox that can take out a mountain with a tail flick? I've heard some of the legends, why do you ask? See, people who say they've seen that thief, the fox, say that he has fox ears and 9 tails, said Scott. And you got it in your head to think that he is a demon lord bent on the destruction of the world, said Naruto, laughing it out, though Jean thought it was an extremely fake-sounding laugh. Why don't we stop by my place after school and I can tell you the legends, if you really want to know them, said Naruto. Sure man, we can walk home with you after school, replied Evan, as he and the X-Men left Naruto alone in the hall. Finding a hiding place, Naruto drew some blood, made a few hand seals, and whispered blood clone jutsu. A few drops of blood suddenly started to ripple and fluctuate before becoming an exact copy of our favorite blonde ninja. You know what to do, said Naruto to his clone. Getting a nod, Naruto SHUNSHINEDSP. Out of the school. Naruto's apartment. Though she was loving her new position, mainly the fact that it was outside of that prison Jean would call a mind, Phoenix was thoroughly bored out of her mind. After finding nothing good on TV and reading some of the books and magazines Naruto had in his apartment, she just sat there, levitating a pen, taking it apart at a molecular level, what she does in the movie, and restoring it to normal, though it took quite a bit of concentration, as her power had been divided equally between her and Jean. Pack your things. We're leaving. The voice made her jump as she couldn't sense the blonde behind her and also caused her to lose the pen. May I ask where we are going and why you are here in the middle of the day? Said Phoenix. I wasn't expecting you back for at least a few more hours. Yes, I could see that you were having a great time here by yourself and I decided to get in on it, he said, pointing at the pile of dust that was once a pen and once again earning a blush from his psychic powerhouse of a mate. As for where we are going, we're gonna be staying at my warehouse. All that's left is to finish the last bit of the danger room and we'll have everything set. I had the clones build a living space. So, we're just getting up and leaving? Asked Phoenix. Oh, I'm throwing a little moving out party for us. All that's left is to put up the decorations, replied Naruto, pulling out an enormous stack of exploding tags. Chuckling, he muttered might as well go out with a bang and scattered the notes all over the apartment, leaving a few for the rest of the building. Time skip. So, just give me a second to go get what I have on QB and I'll be back down, said Naruto, though unknown to the X-Men it was really a clone taking his place. What kind of stuff do you think he has on the big fox? Asked Evan to the group. I don't know, but hopefully, it's got more info than the book, replied Scott. I still think something's off with him, said Jean, looking up at the apartment building. Like, come on, he's a nice guy. You're like, blowing this way out of proportion, said Kitty, defending Naruto. However, as soon as she said that, the entire group was blown back by a huge explosion. Looking up, they saw that the entire apartment was now on fire, and several more explosions were literally taking the building down. People were quickly running through the door and down the fire escapes to get away from the burning building. However, one person the group did not see was Naruto. As the fire department showed up, the eyes of the X-Men were drawn to the trucks until Scott looked up higher and saw something that made his blood boil. Standing on the roof of the building across the street, watching the chaos, was the fox and the dark Jean known as Phoenix. Catching what Scott was staring at, Kurt teleported the group onto the building where the two were standing. Though Fox looked the same, they could now see a total difference in appearance between Jean and Phoenix just by what she had on. She wears what she wears from the movie. Ah, if it isn't the X-Men. You like what I've done to the place? Said Fox, indicating the burning building across the way. That was you? Asked Evan in anger and confusion. Technically it was me and about 2,000 exploding tags, but yes, came their answer from the super thief. Upon hearing this, Evan started firing projectiles at Fox, only for them to stop an inch from his face and seem to evaporate into thin air, courtesy of Phoenix, who stood there smirking, though had the group been noticing, they would have seen the sweat dripping from her brow. However, said group of teens were too busy staring in shock at what the dark telekinetic had managed to do. Well, that wasn't very nice, said Fox, while the X-Men could practically feel the smirk underneath his mask. Put those things away before you poke someone's eye out. Turning to Scott, he said, perhaps if we are really going to fight, we should go someplace more out of the way, as I doubt a brawl up here would be unnoticed by the public. The choice is yours. We can do it now or later. As nobody knows who's under this mask, showing my abilities in public isn't that big of a deal. Name the time and place, replied Rogue, with a glare that threatened to burn right through Fox's head. Easy, my dear. Know that if I really wanted to, I could kill you in a heartbeat. The same goes for my sexy female companion, so I would watch what you say and how you say things. All I did was blow up a building. And if I'm correct, which I'm pretty sure I am, the only one who actually died, or if he isn't dead soon will be, is that blonde idiot you were with, said Fox, earning a chuckle from Phoenix, but not for the reasons the teen heroes thought. As for the time and place, there is oddly enough an old apartment complex on the other side of town scheduled for demolition. I'll be there at 10 o'clock tonight. The question is, will you? With that, Fox and Phoenix disappeared in a swirl of smoke and leaves, leaving the X-Men to their thoughts. Elsewhere. Two men were walking through the halls of a rather large building, having a rather loud conversation. This Fox is becoming too dangerous, said one. He shows no regard for human life, as he recently showed by his destruction of an apartment complex. He could either be a powerful ally or a deadly enemy. Agreed, said the other. I believe it's time to go on a fox hunt. And we do have quite the huntress. Send X-23. Bayville. 10 p.m. So, it appears you accepted my invitation, said Naruto, seeing the full team poured in, courtesy of Nightcrawler. However, Naruto was surprised to see Professor Xavier with the group. You brought a man in a wheelchair as backup. You must be desperate for a win, he laughed out. So, you're this mysterious fox. You act like this is some kind of game, QP retorted Xavier. So, you know about that. Really, what gave it away? Was it my style, devilish good looks? Or did you just take 2 seconds out of your date to give my tales accounting? Replied Naruto in mock surprise. Anyway, the only reason I really called you here is more for my gain than yours. After all, there's only one person here that could possibly hope to be a match for me in a fight, and all I want is a little challenge. Right here, right now, me versus Wolverine one-on-one, finished Naruto, summoning up 4 shadow clones. Like we're really gonna do anything you say after what you did to Naruto. Shouted Spike after the fire department's discovery of dead body that was later confirmed to be the blonde. Blood clones, excellent for faking your own death, thought Naruto as he said aloud, what makes you think you have any choice? With that, the 4 clones finished a series of hand seals, and a strange purple barrier formed, keeping Naruto and Wolverine in and everyone else out. Deciding to test the barrier, Spike sent some projectiles at it, only for them to burst into flames on contact and almost seemed to melt. It appeared that Logan was indeed on his own. New technique I learned. Hope you don't mind, but I needed a bit of privacy. Can't have those annoying teens or your fellow teachers interfering, can we? Said Fox. The two stood, silent and motionless for a moment. Then, as if some unseen, unheard signal was given, Logan unsheathed his claws and jumped at Fox, who simply got down on all fours, as if he really were some animal. As Logan got close, Fox jumped at Logan, colliding with the former Weapon X, and used his chakra-enhanced claw to literally rip off a chunk of flesh off his abdomen. He then used his tails to grab the already healing mutant and hurled him away, causing him to land just inches from the barrier. With a growl, Logan managed to stand up and charged Fox, only for him to dodge at the last second, uttering a quiet olay, succeeding in angering the feral Canadian even more. However, as he gave a bow to the applauding Phoenix, who was watching on the opposite side of the barrier than the X-Men, he was impaled through the back and out the chest by 6 adamantium claws. As the claws were retracted, the entire group watched Fox stumble away from Logan, blood staining his mask as he coughed it up. Falling to his knees, Logan saw Fox begin to convulse and start wheezing. However, his satisfaction didn't last long as he realized that his opponent wasn't dying, he was laughing. Standing up, Fox ripped off the shirt of his outfit, revealing that the holes in his chest were healing at a rate equal to that of Wolverine. Sticking out his arm, Fox flipped of Logan before giving the universal hand sign of bring it on. And bring it on, Logan did. To the group of spectators outside the barrier, it appeared like the two were feral animals, fighting over territory, and neither could gain the edge. As soon as an injury was inflicted, it would begin to heal. As the fighting continued, Xavier gave a slight nod to Shadowcat and Rogue, who nodded back. With that, Shadowcat phased the two into the ground. Back inside the barrier, both Logan and Fox were in a deadlock, with neither gaining nor giving an edge. You know why you won't beat me? Asked Fox. Because I pride myself in being unpredictable. No matter what happens, I can come up with a plan in a heartbeat. Smirking, Logan replied, then maybe it's time to take a page from your book. That said, Kitty and Rogue rose from the ground and, reaching out an ungloved hand, Rogue managed to touch Fox. For a split second nothing happened. But then, both of them started screaming in pain. What appeared to be red lightning surged and jumped all over from the point of contact. The barrier soon faded as the Fox clones dispersed. Then, both Fox and Rogue were literally blasted away from each other, Fox colliding with the side of the old building, Rogue landing just where the barrier had been. Looking between the two, the X-Men saw Fox shakily getting up. Looking at them, then to Rogue, he started swearing profusely. Shit. Do you have any idea of what you've done? He shouted. Suddenly, a red energy seemed to flow from Rogue's unconscious body like water and actually pushed her off the ground and into a slumped over standing position. The energy then seemed to pour over her and cover her body in a red aura before the aura took the shape of a fox. Looking at her, the others could see that her hair was spiked in all directions and her fingernails had become like claws. As she looked up, the group saw that her teeth had become fang-like and her eyes had turned blood red with deadly-looking slitted pupils. Before she could do anything though, Naruto was behind her and gave her a swift knock to the back of the neck, making her lose consciousness again. Sorry, no one-tailed Rogue. Fox, I think we got a problem, thought Naruto as the girl he had just knocked out began coughing up blood. Fox, I think we've got a problem, thought Naruto. He wasn't long with his thoughts however, as the demonic chakra once again surrounded Rogue and he had to jump away to avoid the punch from said girl. Damn it Fox, now is not the time for a nap, help me damn it. You don't think I realize that? Welp, we have to get rid of the chakra, reabsorb it somehow. And how exactly do we go about doing that, smart one? Thought Naruto as he backflipped to avoid the swipe from Rogue's newly acquired claws, only to be hit with the chakra tail from Rogue's fox cloak. Slamming into the side of the building, the wall collapsed and toppled onto Naruto. Wolverine, trying to calm down Rogue, was sent flying into Naruto as he removed the wall from himself, causing more bricks to fall on the both of them. The rest of the X-Men, upon seeing this, went to regroup with Wolverine. As Naruto dusted himself off, Wolverine once again tried to run to Rogue and attempt to calm her, only to be stopped by Jean. As if to vocalize Jean's actions, Xavier rolled over to Logan and started trying to calm down Logan himself. Damn it Chuck, we can't just sit here and do nothing, said Logan. I agree, said Xavier, but if we just keep our distance, the effects should wear off eventually. I hate to contradict Boldy here, said Fox, catching the whole group's attention, but he's wrong on both counts. Keeping our distance won't do any good while the fox cloak is flaring. As if to make his point, the group suddenly heard an animalistic roar from Rogue on the other side of the area. She made a punching motion with her arm and a giant claw made from demonic chakra shot at the group. Jean and Phoenix attempted to form a shield, but as soon as the claw hit the barrier, both psychics were thrown back, unconscious. As another claw came their way, Kurt teleported everyone to safety. Anyway, that's the reason why keeping our distance won't work. As for letting the effects wear off, that's not an option either, said Naruto, earning confused looks from everyone and a glare from Wolverine. And why exactly is that, Bub, he said, extending his claws a mere inch from Fox's face. Because Bub, my power is my power. The effects on her body have already started. This power has been with me since the day of my birth, only I can handle it. She may be able to adapt to the powers of other mutants, but to anyone but me, my chakra is lethal. At this, there was a collective gasp among the X-Men and a growl from Wolverine. So how exactly do we fix this, said Scott, not exactly liking working with Fox, but if it would save Rogue, he was all for it. Yeah Fox, how do we fix this, thought Naruto. I have an idea, but I have no clue if it will work, replied QB. Give it to me. If you can get close enough, you can form a Rasengan with demonic chakra. And how is a Rasengan gonna help? Damn it whelp, let me finish. As I was saying, form the Rasengan, but focus the chakra inward. If my theory is correct, it should act like a vacuum when it makes contact with the girl, literally sucking the chakra out of her. To the group next to Naruto, it appeared as though he had simply closed his eyes, though they were slightly disturbed when his eyelids started twitching. Opening his eyes, Fox stated simply, I have a plan. After giving a very vague explanation of what he was attempting to do, everyone, minus Jean and Phoenix, who were still unconscious, went back down from the building they were on, only to find that Rogue was nowhere in sight. As the group began looking, Logan picked up her scent and they followed it to the side of the building scheduled for demolition. Suddenly, a chakra claw shot from the wall, grabbed both Logan and Naruto, and pulled them through the wall. The group outside heard what sounded like a struggle, and suddenly Fox was thrown out the hole in the wall, only to get up and dive back in, a red orb spiraling in his hand. After another series of noises pointing towards a fight going on, Rogue was thrown out of the building, Wolverine trying to keep her down, while being careful not to touch her. However, he was soon thrown off back into the wall, only for Fox to lunge at Rogue, red orb in hand. Fortunately for him, she was too preoccupied with Wolverine to see as he jumped on top of her, knocking her to the ground. This may hurt, he said, but it's for your own good. With that he slammed the orb into her stomach. As he did so, the fox cloak around Rogue receded, seemingly being drawn through the orb into Fox's hand. As the last of the chakra was absorbed, Rogue once again began coughing up blood. Damn it Fox, all that time training and you couldn't teach me some healing jutsu? Naruto practically shouted in his mind. I know one, it should work, but you don't have the time to learn it. Let me take over and we can save her and maybe scare the shit out of those around us. Fine, just heal her, damn it. The group heard Fox say. They then saw Fox shift. As he stood up, the group watched as he carried himself differently. Flashing through more of his weird hand motions, the X-Men watched Fox's hands glow an eerie seafoam green color. Reaching down, he touched Rogue's forehead, scaring the crap out of half the X-Men, though their fright turned to wonder as she wasn't absorbing his power this time. Suddenly, Rogue began thrashing about on the ground and she began coughing up more blood. Just as Wolverine was about to attack Fox, Rogue became still and she began breathing normally. Sighing, the group looked at Fox and was startled to see his eyes had changed from red to blue, though the pupils were still slitted. Naruto, looking above the group, nodded his head and everyone besides himself and Rogue were flung into and pinned to the wall, courtesy of the recently awakened Phoenix, who floated down and took her place at Naruto's side. Having her touch me was a very dangerous plan, Xavier, said Fox, his eyes taking their usual red color. When I planted that hypnotic suggestion in your mind, I never thought it would impair your judgment that much. What are you talking about? Asked Xavier, confused beyond belief. Oh, you see, we've met before, replied Fox. When we did, I knew right away that you were a man that would have your students avoid confrontation with me unless there was no choice. So, I placed a fun little suggestion in your mind. You would obsess over me, or more specifically, having your team beat me in a fight. That's what I was after, though as I said, the only real challenge in this world is Wolverine as of yet. Fox suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of Xavier, looking him straight in the eye. For a split second, the professor felt a presence in the back of his mind. However, it was gone as soon as it came. I think it would be a good idea to remove that little suggestion before someone gets killed, don't you? Said Fox in a bored yet beepy tone. You mean like you killed our friend, you crazy son of a. Evan was unable to finish his sentence as a tag was placed on his forehead. Though he continued to speak, no sound escaped his mouth. Much better, said Naruto, I was beginning to get a headache. The captive audience watched as Fox bent over and grabbed Rogue, who was unconscious. We'll be taking our leave now. Oh, by the way, Phoenix, Naruto said while holding up 3 fingers to the dark psychic. Barely able to contain her glee, Phoenix sent Xavier flying across the side into another building, followed by her lifting him into the air and slamming him into the ground, after which she did so again, but raised him slightly higher. Leaning by the still conscious Xavier, Fox whispered, just be glad I didn't let her kill you. With that, Fox and Phoenix left, taking the unconscious Rogue with them. Logan, angry at everything that transpired, let out a roar and began slashing everything he could, while the others collected the still unconscious Jean and the now also unconscious Professor X and left for the mansion. Time skip. The figure dressed completely in black arrived on the site a mere 10 minutes after everyone else had left. Looking around at the destruction, the figure found what looked like some sort of clothing, though blood-stained and severely torn, it was all they needed. Removing their mask, the figure was revealed to be a girl, about 14 or 15 years old. She had tanned skin and long brown hair. Putting the material to her nose, she took in the scent. Stowing the torn cloth in a pocket on her suit and replacing her mask, she took off running, attempting to follow the scent. 2 adamantium-coated claws extended from her knuckles. X-23 was on the hunt. Fox's hideout. Rogue awoke to find herself in the mansion infirmary. Or at least that's what she thought until she realized that both Fox and Phoenix had entered the room. After the fight with Wolverine, she doubted the professor would even allow them near the institute. She was suddenly hit by a wave of memories, and while short and few, she at least managed to get a gist of what was going on. As Fox came near, he leaned over by her bed. You're lucky to be alive, you know that, right? He said. However, his only reply was a slap across the face. That's for making everybody think you died, you jerk, said Rogue in an angry tone. I probably deserved it, replied Naruto, who took off his mask and rubbed his face. So I take it you've seen a few of my memories. Just who or what are you exactly? Asked Rogue. Well, obviously only my more recent memories, said Naruto, a smirk present on his face. That will all be explained in due time, however, you nearly died tonight and I think you could use some rest, he said as he got up to leave. What are you gonna do with me? Asked Rogue. Well, once you're well rested, you're free to go if that's what you wish, but I would think you'd like to stay, said Naruto, still facing the door. Why would you let me leave? And what do you mean I'd probably like to stay? Asked Rogue, confusion evident in her voice. An order, said Naruto, taking in my chakra has left a few side effects. You are now stronger, faster, more agile, and your senses have been enhanced, though very slightly. You are now by far better suited to survive in the world, and I also don't want to hold you here against your will. Then what about her? Asked Rogue, indicating Phoenix. You'll find that she is here of her own free will, if not she would have killed me long ago, as I never ordered her not to, said Naruto, causing Phoenix to blush, not going unnoticed by Rogue. As for you wanting to stay, the answer is quite simple, said Naruto, while turning to face her. Rogue watched Naruto as he looked her right in the eyes and said, "I can teach you how to control your powers." Rogue's eyes widened in shock as he said this. If it was true, he was what she needed most right now. "Yes, Rogue, I can teach you something even Xavier can't." "You could touch again," said Naruto. "And how do I know you're not lying?" replied Rogue, not yet sure she could trust the blonde. Suddenly, he disappeared and reappeared by her bedside. "Because," he said, "first of all, I know the cause of all mutant powers is chakra, and that can be controlled. Control your chakra, control your power. Besides, if you want proof that chakra control will work, you'll notice," he said, stroking her cheek with his bare hand, "that at least I am quite capable of touching you, and vice versa." As he got up to leave, Rogue made her decision. "Alright, I'll stay," she said. "Excellent, now get some sleep, I'll explain the conditions of your stay more tomorrow before school." At this announcement, he earned a groan from Rogue. "I have to go to school because?" she asked, obviously annoyed. "Not to mention I don't have any of my things." "Oh, don't worry, as we speak one of my clones is headed toward the mansion to get them. And don't worry, I've been in there probably 5 times before with people there, I'm quite capable of grabbing your things without anyone realizing it," replied Naruto. "As for the reason for your going to school, it's to learn things, cause if you think I'm going to be teaching you math or some crap like that, you are sorely mistaken," he said with a smirk. With that, he put an arm around Phoenix's shoulder and the two left, to do what, Rogue had no idea. Xavier Institute. The whole team was gathered in the infirmary, around a now awake Professor X, explaining what happened after he passed out. Well, the whole team minus Logan, who had gone straight to the danger room once entering the mansion and was currently taking the place apart, venting his frustrations. The rest of the team couldn't blame him. Evan, Kurt, Scott and Kitty were debating going down to help him redecorate the place. So anyway, he took Rogue with him, and we have absolutely no idea where he hangs out, Evan practically shouted, causing several of the already irate group, including his Aunt Aurora, to wish that the tag that made him silent would have been stuck on his head for longer. "Unfortunately, even if I was able to use Cerebro right now, I doubt we could find her," said Xavier. Like Magneto, Fox and Phoenix seem to have found a way to remain undetected by Cerebro. And I would be willing to bet that Rogue has currently dropped off the radar as well. For now, we should try to keep an eye out, but no more fighting Fox unless necessary. I think it was proven that only Wolverine can prove a match for him. Now, I know this has been a traumatic day for all of you, but it is a school night and you should all get some sleep," finished the professor, hoping to get some sleep himself. He just felt as if his head had been cleared, probably the after effects of Fox removing that suggestion. However, that gave Xavier an idea. Fox's hideout. "Hey Fox." Came the voice of Forge from over his comm system, "It looks like someone's here that isn't supposed to be." Turning to the sleeping form of Phoenix, he kissed her forehead, threw on his clothes, and shunshed down to Forge's workplace. "What do we got?" asked Naruto, making Forge jump. "Dang, that is awesome," he said, "but stop popping in behind me. You nearly gave me a heart attack," said the Native American genius, breathing heavily. "Anyway, what we've got is an intruder." Security picked him up. "What's interesting is that whoever it is has some very interesting genetics, not entirely, but nearly identical to that Wolverine guy," finished Forge, bringing up some video on screen. What they saw was a figure, dressed completely in black, combat gear if Naruto had to guess, and a strange face mask with goggles with red lenses. The video showed the figure taking off their helmet to reveal the face of a young girl with tan skin and long brown hair. As the two watched the video, the girl appeared to sniff the air. As she did, 2 metal-coated claws slid from her knuckles. Probably the same kind that covers Wolverine's claws and bones for that matter. Whistling, Naruto said, "Yep, she is definitely related to Logan somehow. But I'm being rude. I had better go give our guest a warm welcome," he said, watching her cut a hole through a wall before she rips my nice new home to shreds, he finished. And in a flash, he was off to meet the interesting new guest. With X-23. X-23 had managed to follow a light scent to an old abandoned warehouse. It took her a while as the scent was so faint, but it had brought her here, where the scent was all over the place. Following the scent to the strongest location, she grabbed a chain off the ground and pulled, revealing a secret staircase. Walking down, she came to an elevator that when she neared it, seemed to run a scan of her body, along with a retinal scan. When she failed to pass either, she heard a hiss as locks engaged on the elevator. Extending her claws, she sliced through the door and jumped down the elevator shaft. Using her claws on the shaft walls to slow her fall, she eventually reached the bottom. Clawing the top of the elevator, she entered and exited soon after by cutting a rather large hole through the elevator doors at the bottom. Walking out into a hallway, she heard a voice over the intercom. "Hey Fox. It looks like someone's here that isn't supposed to be." Running down the hallway, she took off her mask and began sniffing to pick up a scent, but it seemed to be all over the place. She knew she shouldn't stay in one place too long however, as she had seen multiple security cameras and her target already knew she was here. Using her claws, she sliced open a hole in the wall and ran through. But Naruto. Feeling her out like he had learned from QB, Naruto locked onto her location and shunshined right above her onto the ceiling. As he looked at her, he had to admit she was quite beautiful. X-23 suddenly stopped. Sniffing, she turned and launched a strange disc. Turning, she watched as her target was shocked severely by the disc, causing him to fall and hit the ground. However, as he did so, he vanished in a puff of smoke. That looked like it may have hurt. Turning around, X-23 saw her target leaning against the wall. Launching another disc at him, he dodged and before she could react, a strong punch sent her flying into the wall of the narrow hallway. As he walked to her, she threw another disc at him, only for him to sway it away. "Trust me, miss. I don't think you're gonna take me down with just those alone, so let's just." He couldn't finish however, as she sent 4 claws into his chest. Retracting her claws, she turned and swept him off his feet. Twisting herself, she slammed a foot, claw extended, into his stomach. She began to get up, but then, so did Fox. "Well, that wasn't very nice," he said, before picking her up and before she could react, he shunshined into his newly finished danger room. Putting her down, Naruto punched her back before performing a jump 360 degrees roundhouse kick to her head, sending her flying into the wall, where several mechanical claws grabbed her and restrained her. "Now then," he said, "let's see exactly who you are." With that, he looked her straight in the eye and dove into her mind, or more specifically, her memories. He watched as she was ignored by others even as a child, how she was both trained and beaten to have the emotions knocked out of her. He saw how other children who lived happy lives with family ignited a rage in her so powerful, it nearly beat out his own at seeing her forcibly having the adamantium grafted to her bones and claws. The bastards couldn't even give her a name. Pulling out of her mind, he watched as the girl he now knew was codenamed X-23, cry, as she too had just relived each memory he had looked at, and in her eyes, he knew that even without the same backstory, he and she, along with Rogue and Phoenix, were all remarkably similar. Looking at the girl, he said, "I want to show you something, if you will let me." X-23 gave no response. Thinking for a second, Naruto said, "You need a name." This got her attention. "Everyone needs an actual name. I've seen your life, and while they may not see you as one, you are just as human as everyone else. Those bastards didn't give you one. They attempted to objectify you, make you as little human as possible." Thinking for a minute, Naruto came to a decision and announced, "Laura. I think Laura sounds like a good name. What do you think?" X-23 looked at him, confused. He treated her like she was a person. Someone that was worth something more than just being a weapon. As she watched him, he sat down cross-legged on the floor, as if so eager for a response that he couldn't even stand. Though the tears continued to fall, X-23 began to do something she really couldn't even remember ever doing. She was laughing. Laughing at the antics of the man she was sent to kill. Naruto looked at her, silently laughing with her, as she nodded and actually spoke to him. "Yes, Laura sounds like a good name. I like it," she said, unsure of the words that were coming out of her mouth. "Wonderful, Laura it is," exclaimed Naruto, jumping to his feet. "Now, I would still like to show you something, if you want to see it." The newly named Laura nodded her head and Naruto once again made eye contact. She blinked and in that moment, she opened her eyes and they were standing on a dirt path between buildings with several kanji adorning them. She realized they were in an alley, but where, she couldn't say. Suddenly, a young blonde child with whisker-shaped marks on his cheeks, no older than 4, rushed into the alley and hid behind a dumpster. Watching, Laura saw a large mob of people enter the alley with torches and a large assortment of homemade weapons. Reaching behind one of the dumpsters, a large round man pulled the screaming blonde boy from behind the dumpster. Lifting the boy by the ankle, the man prepared to hit him with a wooden club. Seeing this, Laura jumped in and slashed at the man holding the boy, only to find that she went right through him. Turning to Naruto, she asked, "What is this?" "The memory, my memory," said Fox, removing his mask to reveal blonde hair, whisker-marked cheeks, and a sad smile. Turning back to the memory, Laura watched as the young Naruto was beaten mercilessly by the mob. Suddenly, the image shifted and she watched numerous occasions of the same event. And in moments it was over, Laura not even beginning to comprehend what she saw or why she saw it. "Why would you show me that?" she asked, dropping to her knees. Naruto got down on the floor next to her and replied, "So you could see for yourself that while I may not know exactly what you went through, we are very much the same." Once again crying, Laura felt Naruto pull her into a warm embrace. "You don't have to be alone anymore, Laura," he said. "You can stay here with us, a ragtag family, but a family nonetheless. And most importantly, and I want you to listen to me, Laura. I give you my word that the people that did this to you, Hydra, will be held accountable, and if you wish, I will personally hunt down everyone in Hydra that has wronged you and will destroy them." And I never go back on my word. The two sat there, Naruto holding Laura as she cried herself to sleep. After finding a room for Laura to sleep in, Naruto snuck back down to Forge's workstation, once again scaring the mutant genius out of his wits. He couldn't help himself, it was in his nature. Besides, he was awake, so he may as well check out how his latest endeavor, Project Exodus, was coming along. Basically, it was supposed to be a tunnel through space and time back to his own world. It had originally been planned out that he was going to use it to go home, but he had something far better in mind as a form of revenge for the things he had been put through in his youth. Unfortunately, that left a major hole in his new plan, one that he was trying to fix. That was the inevitable task of getting back to this world. Fortunately, Forge had the answer. Unfortunately, he didn't have the equipment. The only place that currently has what we're looking for, said Forge, staring at the many computer screens placed in front of him, is the Oscar Research and Development Division in New York City. Naruto stood behind him, reading off the information pulled up on the building. Even for Naruto's standards, security was going to be tight. Oh goody, I get to pretty much go through a death trap. Yippee for me, said Naruto, sarcasm dripping from his words. Look at it this way, replied Forge. You may find some recruits for your cause. At this declaration, several images flashed on the monitor of several superpowered criminals that inhabited the Big Apple, each one making Naruto's smirk just a bit larger. Oh yes, they would do well for his plans. Giving a slight nod to his resident genius, Naruto slipped a roll of $1,000 bills onto Forge's work table and shunshed back to the room he and Phoenix shared. As soon as he appeared, however, he realized that he must have left his mate alone a little too long, as from behind he was tackled onto the bed, leaving the two completely tangled in the sheets, their tongues wrestling for dominance. Rogue was conflicted. She wasn't really chummy with the others at the institute, but she still considered them her friends. If she had to go to school tomorrow, that would mean that she would have to see them, and more than likely she would have to answer their questions about Naruto and where this place was. And even if she didn't answer, she was fairly certain that Jean would just enter her mind anyway and find the information. She didn't know what to do. She had the choice to leave, but she didn't. And every time she told herself she was just staying so she could learn to control her powers, something inside herself told her it wasn't true, that some part of her wanted to stay even if she couldn't learn control. And those conflicting messages in her head were leaving her angrier and angrier. Unable to sleep, she rose from her bed and decided to explore the facility she found herself in. After leaving the infirmary, she gasped at what she saw. Aside from the fact that there were no windows lining the halls, the place looked exactly the same as the institute, down to the slightest detail. In fact, had she not noticed there were no windows, she would have once again thought she was in the X-Mansion. Continuing to explore, she soon found herself growing hungry and subconsciously headed toward where the kitchen of the institute would be. Sure enough, a fully stocked kitchen, once again identical to the mansion, was exactly where it should be. After raiding the fridge, Rogue managed to throw together a rather large sandwich and began chowing down. As she continued to eat, however, she got the distinct feeling that she was being watched. Turning around, she saw a girl around her age, maybe a bit younger, standing in the doorway. Rogue noticed something though, something that she never would have noticed before yet somehow was able to now. Like her, though she didn't show it outright, Rogue could sense this girl was troubled about something. What it was, she couldn't say, but something was up. The girl walked into the kitchen and like Rogue fixed herself something to eat. As she sat down, Rogue's suspicions were confirmed as the girl's eyes were red, almost as if she had been crying. "Name's Rogue, what's yours?" she asked, trying to make conversation with the girl that hadn't spoken a single word since entering the kitchen. The girl just looked at her, as if unsure of the answer to that simple question. Laura, my name is Laura, said the girl, a slight quiver in her voice, as if she wasn't used to her own name, which unbeknownst to Rogue, was exactly the case. Getting up from her seat, Rogue fished around in the refrigerator and grabbed 2 sodas, one for herself and one for Laura, who took it cautiously, but upon drinking, it seemed to perk up slightly. Laura had never actually drunk soda before. Normally, she just ate and drank what she was given or what she could scrounge around during survival trainings in the forest. "So Laura, what's your story? How did you end up here?" asked Rogue, curiosity getting the better of her. She had several of Naruto's more recent memories, yet she had no idea who this girl was, meaning she had to have gotten here around the same time she herself did. "I was sent here by an organization called Hydra to kill Fox. But then he ended up looking into my mind and let me look into his. He told me that if I wanted I could stay here and be a part of his group," replied Laura, trying to give as little information as possible. He had managed to break the dam holding back her emotions, and now she was confused. Being angry, depressed, excited, embarrassed and strangely relieved all at once would do that to a person. But she was happy. He treated her like a person, something that never happened in Hydra. To them, she was merely their weapon, their tool. "What about you?" asked Laura, now she herself curious as she hadn't heard Fox had accomplices. Then again, the file on him hadn't said much to begin with. "I'm a mutant. The reason I go by Rogue is because of my power. When I make physical skin-to-skin contact with someone, I drain their life force. When I do, I get their memories, take on their personality traits, and in the case of others with powers I gain those too. It doesn't last long though, but if I hold contact for too long I could kill the person. After I touched Fox, I blacked out and woke up in the infirmary in this place. I was told that I almost died and that his power had increased my physical abilities. After that, he gave me the choice of leaving or staying. As you can see, I chose to stay." "Why?" asked Laura, though she thought she might already know the answer. "At first it was cause he said he could teach me control, but honestly, I don't really know," replied Rogue. "Anyway," she said, "you a mutant?" "I would guess so since this Hydra play sent you to take on Fox." Of course, if what he said was true, only Wolverine provides a challenge for him. Upon hearing Wolverine, Laura nearly began choking on her food. She recognized that name. It was the codename of the original Weapon X, the one she had been cloned from. He was here in the area, right under her nose and she didn't know it. She clenched her fists as her 2 pairs adamantium claws slid out of each hand. It was his fault. His fault that she was created. His fault that she had endured all that she did. Rogue watched Laura's face take on a dark angry look as claws eerily reminiscent of Logan slid from her knuckles. She wondered if maybe this girl was related to Logan somehow, but realized that that shouldn't be possible. Mutations were random, they didn't pass genetically. Even if she were a relative of his, it should be impossible, or highly improbable at least, that they have the same powers, let alone metal claws. Her thoughts were interrupted however when another voice was heard from the doorway. "Didn't Naruto tell you to get some rest?" Turning, both girls saw Phoenix walk into the room. At least they thought she was walking until they noticed she was actually levitating and floating throughout the room, using her powers to assemble a midnight snack for herself. The two also noticed that her hair was severely messed up, her robe looked as if it had been lazily thrown on, or someone had tried to take it off, and from what they could see of her face under her hair, she just had this dumb smirk plastered on her face. "And you must be Laura. Fox told me about you. If you need anything just ask either of us," she finished, taking her snack and preparing to leave the kitchen. "Wait, Phoenix, I want to ask you something," said Rogue, stopping the dark telekinetic. Phoenix merely floated back over to the table and sat down. "Ask away," she said in a bored tone. "What exactly are you to Naruto? He said that you haven't killed him yet, even though he didn't order you not to. The professor said you were just pure instinct and impulse given personality through genes powers, so why haven't you killed him?" Phoenix nearly fell out of the chair at this. Rogue was more observant than she appeared. "Well," she said, "let's just say in terms of actual relationship I'm more than a girlfriend, but less than an actual wife. I could kill him if I wanted to, but I really don't want to. As for why I couldn't kill him if he ordered me not to, is because of this." She turned for both girls to see and lifted her hair out of the way, revealing her neck which had what looked like a tattoo made up of kanji and many intricate designs. "This is a control seal," continued Phoenix. "It still lets me keep my emotions, my free will, but it will hurt me if I disobey a direct order. Suggestions don't count, just a direct order. Back when we were living in his apartment, he ordered me to stay inside during the day while he was in school. I decided to test it out, and just thinking about leaving made me feel sick. Taking a step out of the door, I began throwing up uncontrollably until I went back inside. If I do go against his orders, the seal ravages my body until the point of death. Fortunately, he's very lax when it comes to ordering me around. In fact, that whole stay inside thing was the only thing he ever actually ordered me to do. The rest of the time it's pretty much do whatever you want, as long as it doesn't draw too much attention to yourself." The two other girls were just staring in awe. Both were glad that they didn't have those on, and both were hoping they wouldn't have them put on. "So you said more than a girlfriend, less than a wife. What exactly do you mean?" asked Laura. "Well," said Phoenix, "do any of you know what the term mate means when it comes to animals?" Rogue just raised an eyebrow before several unwanted memories between Naruto and Phoenix flashed through her mind, this time making her nearly fall out of the chair, much to Phoenix's amusement. Laura knew right away what she meant by the question, but she found herself feeling depressed for some reason. "Yeah, so anyway, I'm Naruto's mate," said Phoenix. "You know, he is actually required to have more than one, so if either of you ever want to join the festivities some night, feel free to come on up," said Phoenix in as sexy a voice as she could put on, before laughing and leaving the room, her sandwich floating after her, leaving both girls to actually fall out of their chairs. The next morning, both girls found themselves waking up from a knock at the door. Waking up, Rogue found herself in a room that looked eerily similar to the room she shared with Kitty. Instead of Kitty, however, she noticed Laura sleeping in the other bed. For the life of her she couldn't remember how she had come to be in this room, and by the looks of it, Laura was a little on the confused side also. Turning to the dresser, she realized all of her stuff lay on top of it, with the exception of her clothes, which were in a bag next to it. She suddenly turned beet red from the thought of Naruto, or his clone at least, going through her underwear drawer. Speaking of Naruto, she realized he was right outside the door. She couldn't see him, but it was like she could feel that he was there. Sure enough, the door opened and in walked Naruto in a pair of jeans and a red t-shirt, a necklace with a green crystal adorning his neck. "If you ladies aren't still full from your fridge raid last night, breakfast is ready," he said before turning and walking out of the room. Both Laura and Rogue looked at each other before quietly getting up and heading back down to the dining area to find Naruto, Phoenix, and another guy around their age, one that looked familiar to Rogue, but she couldn't seem to place where she had seen him before. Looking at the table, the two saw it was covered with stacks of pancakes, plates of sausages, cartons of milk and orange juice, some donuts, toast and jam, and a variety of fruit. "Again, we've got plenty," said Naruto between bites. Both girls once more looked at each other before Rogue shrugged and began filling a plate, Laura following suit shortly afterward. As they continued to eat, Naruto decided to explain how things were going to work with the group. Rogue would be going to school as usual. Laura was asked if she wished to attend school anyway, as a way to get out and meet people. It would also be beneficial for Rogue to have someone to make the X-Men or Mystique's brotherhood back off in their questions. Laura hesitantly agreed, not sure if she would fit in, but a look from Naruto put her mind at ease. After school and on Saturdays, Naruto would be training all three of the girls how to utilize and control their chakra, an announcement that still caused confused looks from Rogue and Laura, who weren't as familiar with the concept of chakra as Phoenix had become in her limited time with the blonde. The rest of their time would be free time to do whatever they pleased. After breakfast, Naruto had Phoenix and Ford show Laura a bit more of the underground base, while Naruto gave Rogue a ride to school. Bringing her to an area that looked like some sort of hangar, he threw her a motorcycle helmet as he and she jumped onto his custom chopper and headed up a ramp. After what seemed like 10 minutes they neared the top and Naruto flipped a switch on his helmet, causing a door to slide open, and they shot up into the air inside of a multi-level parking ramp and headed off to the school. "What if Jean tries to read my mind?" shouted Rogue over the roar of the chopper. "Don't worry about that," shouted Naruto back at her. Last night, during his talk with the girl, he had set up a mental barrier in her mind, something he didn't even know he could do until recently. When she, Laura, and Phoenix had their little chat in the kitchen, the telepath built them up to the point they matched her own. Not enough to match his, but enough so not even Xavier could get in her mind if he used Cerebro. It's all been taken care of. "Oh, by the way, meet us in the food court at the mall after school." He finished as they arrived at the school, the X-Men just pulling up as well. They watched with their mouths agape as Rogue removed her helmet and gave it back to the guy on the motorcycle, the helmet disappearing in a cloud of smoke once he took hold of it. Rogue thanked him and waved as he rode off back to his hideout. "Rogue, it's you, what happened? Are you alright?" said Even, the group catching up to Rogue as she began heading to class. "None of your business," Porcupine replied Rogue. Sure they were her friends, but she wasn't about to betray Naruto's trust now. "Whoa, take it easy Rogue, we were just worried about you," said Jean. Trying to get into Rogue's mind, she found she now had considerable mental barriers of her own. "Like, yeah, we just wanted to know if you were okay, you don't have to be so harsh," said Kitty defensively. "If you guys haven't noticed, I'm fine, I can take care of myself," said Rogue, an unnatural anger seemingly burning inside of her. As she turned to walk away, she was stopped by Scott who put his hand on her shoulder. "Rogue, it's okay, just tell us what happened. Where did Fox take you?" That was the final straw. Grabbing Scott by the wrist, Rogue ripped his hand from her shoulder. "Hands off, Summers," said Rogue in a harsh whisper, barely containing the animosity she was feeling at the moment. Squeezing ever so slightly, even she was shocked back to normal by the sickening crunch that indicated she had broken his wrist, causing him to cry out in pain. It was then that the words of Naruto from the night before returned to her. "Taking in my chakra has left a few side effects. You are now stronger, faster, more agile, and your senses have been enhanced, though very slightly. You are now by far better suited to survive in the world." All she could do was stare at her own gloved hands, wondering just how much stronger she was. Turning, she quickly ran away, the group just staring after her, unable to fully comprehend what had just happened. Running into the bathroom, she quickly locked herself in one of the stalls to attempt to calm down. Deciding to test her strength, she lightly punched a brick wall, causing several spiderweb cracks to appear and breaking a few chips of brick through the wall. Her hand was perfectly fine however, she couldn't even tell she had hit a wall. And as lightly as she had hit it, she guessed that if she wanted to she could probably punch all the way through it. Leaning against the wall, she began breathing deeply, attempting to get herself together. Regardless of this, she still had school. Exiting the bathroom, she checked both ways to make sure she wasn't seen by the X-Men before heading off to her first period class. Time skip. Naruto, Phoenix, and Laura sat at one of the tables in the food court, waiting for Rogue to come and meet them. Of course, nobody recognized them. Naruto simply shifted his form into that of Sasuke. Phoenix was using a basic transformation jutsu Naruto had taught her earlier in the week for times that they would be out in public, and nobody knew Laura, so she didn't need a disguise, just some new clothing. When Rogue finally showed up, the group noticed she was in a bit of a rush, and she seemed confused. When she was hailed over, she didn't recognize them until she noticed Laura with them. When she got to the table, she sat down gently, as if she were afraid she may break the table. Which was indeed the case, as Rogue wasn't used to her new strength yet. She had almost shattered the lockers at the school when she slammed hers. She just got so angry with the X-Men pestering her all day. And worst yet, she had sent Scott home with a broken wrist, meaning the teachers at the institute knew. And now they had followed her to the mall. As Naruto saw the X-Men walking toward them, he sighed and stood up, getting between his group and the X-Men, all of whom were present aside from Scott and Xavier. Logan just stared at him, glaring for all he was worth, as though Naruto might burst into flames from it. The other X-Men didn't look too happy either. What pissed Logan off even worse is that there was no way they could fight in such a public place, so it was words only for now. "Well, Logan, you look well. Glad to see our little fight yesterday didn't affect your mood today," said Naruto, almost causing the feral man to lose control of himself. Grabbing Naruto by the shirt collar, he hoisted him to eye level and growled before Roro stepped in to settle him down, but she too wore a look of anger towards Naruto. "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what did I do to get you all so worked up?" asked Naruto sarcastically, smirk still adorning his, or Sasuke's, face. "Alright bub, I don't know what you did to Rogue, but you had better you do it right now," said Logan, grip tightening on Naruto's shirt as his adamantium claws slipped out just enough to poke Naruto's throat, but not enough to be seen by the entire mall. "Oh, she's staying with me quite willingly. I gave her the choice to either leave and go home with you or stay with me and actually learn something. You'll find that teaching her to control her powers is a powerful bargaining chip," replied Naruto, chuckling at the shocked look on the faces of all those present. "Oh, by the way, I haven't made all the introductions yet," he said, indicating Laura, causing all eyes on her. "Laura, this is Logan. Logan, meet Laura, or should I say Laura, this is Logan. Logan, meet your clone." All eyes widened at this as Laura quickly and discreetly extended her own claws. Logan looked on at Laura in astonishment, and he noticed that the girl looked back at him with an expression of hatred. As Laura retracted her claws, Naruto reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. Pulling out a credit card, he handed it to the three girls. "Go nuts you three, there's no limit." At this, Phoenix just got up and walked sexily over to her mate to take the card. Upon taking it, however, she made sure her counterpart was watching as she pulled him in, and the two once again began a battle of the tongues, making Jean sick just looking at it and causing all the X-Men to stare at the two in shock. "Try to stay out of trouble," said Naruto as the two finally pulled out for air. "No promises," replied Phoenix, before kissing his cheek, grabbing the other two girls and walking off. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.